Hi guys, welcome once again to the Coffee and Hero Show, your weekly roundup of everything that's happened in store, as well as certainly the comics, TV and movie news that has caught my eye this week. It's been a bit of a weird week, to be honest, simply because I haven't been very well all week. Had a couple of days out there with just a really bad cold. You can probably still hear it in my voice a little bit, but I haven't been at the store since Wednesday, since New Comic Book Day. Vicky's been holding down the fort excellently as always. I'll probably reward her with a few days off next week, so you might see more of my mug there next week. You can probably still hear my voice a little bit. I'm still not feeling 100%, but definitely getting better. I'm sure you can see from behind me that didn't stop us at the start of this week doing a little remodeling in the house and getting some new display cases, some new bookcases and so forth. So you can start to see a little bit more of my collection behind there. Well, our collection, I should say. Probably is about 95% mine though, but lots of good stuff behind there. I'm sure I'll talk about different bits and pieces, you know, in the next few weeks, few months, all the rest. Now, not being particularly well, that did actually hamper me with a few things. There were a few things that I really wanted to get organised this week that just didn't quite happen. The main one of that being releasing our CGC pricing. I'm hopeful to get that out on Monday of this coming week. The simple reason for that is I want to make sure the prices are 100%. I want to make sure you guys get the best possible value. I want to make sure everything's laid out as clearly as possible for anybody who wants to submit stuff through us. So keep an eye out on Monday and we'll definitely have that on the go. I really wanted to put it out this week, but just as I say, I wasn't feeling 100%. I wasn't, didn't have the clearest thoughts, to be honest. So that's that. But, talking of this week, it was a good new comic book day this week as well. There was plenty of good stuff. There were a couple of great one-shots that really stood out. I mean, I always like to sort of chat about my 3 favourite titles of the week. So I'll just do a quick wee roundup of that now. The first one for me, and I think it was probably issue of the week, is Trinity Crisis. So this was another Dark Knight's Metal one-shot. What was different about this one though is that it isn't a collection, an anthology the way that some of the other Metal one-shots were. This was just one straight story the whole way through, which delved into the DC crises of yesteryear. Written by Scott Snyder and art by Francis Manapul. I really can't recommend this enough. A, is just a great one-shot. B, a great retread through some of DC's history. But I personally think it's vital for understanding Metal. Metal's been a bit of a strange event in a way because, certainly Keith and I would talk about it quite a lot about, the pros and cons of events and tie-ins and this and that. I do believe that the main series can, guide you through it on its own, but these tie-ins have been pretty essential, I have to say. And certainly with this one, I was reading an interview with Schneider where he said even he considered this pretty essential. There will be a brief recap on it in issue 4, but there's a lot packed into this one issue. So I really, really recommend getting on this, guys. So that was Death Metal Trinity Crisis. Continuing on DC Love, we have Nightwing number 74. This was a real standout for me, but I can imagine if you're a long-time Nightwing fan that this will really stand out for you because for all intents and purposes, this is the return of Nightwing. Nightwing's had a bit of a shady history recently with, losing his memory after KGB shot him in the head. He sort of reimagined himself as Rick Grayson and he wasn't quite Nightwing and all the rest. And then Joker has been manipulating him during Joker War to essentially be the Joker's son almost. But this one was like the return of Dick Grayson. So I'm really excited to see what the series is going on from that. And then the second biggest title of the week, Metal probably was our biggest seller, but this wasn't far behind. This is Web of Venom Wraith. This was a really cool one-shot that fits into the Venom lore, written by Donny Cates, of course. And this one, again, is sort of setting the groundwork for the Kingdom Black, which is coming up in December. This is definitely the prelude, the preamble to all of that. Really cool art, really cool story. Works very well as just a cool one-shot. And more of an introduction to Null than we've possibly seen thus far, maybe outside of the Silver Surfer Black series. But I was really impressed with this. I have to say, I thought this was fantastic. So that's a Web of Venom Wraith. So those were my titles of this week. There was tons more than that. I think my pull list was around 21, 22. But there are still a couple of titles I'm still getting to. As I say, just when I'm feeling 100%, I just maybe haven't read as much this week as I would normally. But maybe the other reason I wasn't feeling well this week was because late on Friday we got our invoice through for next week. And the first thing I was looking out for was Deceased, Batman Adventures. Of course, neither of them are on there. Again, the frustration of waiting longer for these titles than they've been out in the States. But we also get hit with the bombshell this week that there are no Marvel titles next week. Now, this seems to be just because of a paperwork processed in error is the reason Diamond are giving us. They're giving us the usual circumstances beyond our control and yada, yada, yada. It's really, really frustrating as a comic store when, you know, essentially a third of your titles are not going to come in next week. You know, we're definitely more of a DC store, I would say, you know, certainly in terms of our biggest numbers in the store are DC titles. And indie titles are very popular as well, but Marvel certainly makes up a third of our orders, or close to it anyway. So not having those titles coming in next week, which then will have a knock-on effect the following week and make it a double week, which will also be frustrating because, you know, we'll have customers coming in next week who are looking forward to picking up their titles and then they won't get them. And then the following week, they suddenly have the expenditure of double, which is, you know, not always ideal as well. So it's really, really frustrating, certainly from a store point of view. I dread to think how big the delivery is going to be the week after. And then the week after that is going to be 3 Jokers, which will be another big one as well. So now, there still is plenty of good stuff out next week, but I do just have to pre-warn you, if you're strictly a Marvel guy or girl, it is not a good week for you next week. But I will go through the invoice anyway. The invoice this week is essentially 2 pages, very, very short. But again, there's good stuff on there. So we've got Batman 99 coming, so we're really gearing up towards the end of Joker War at this point. We've got Batman's Grave number 10 as well. So Warren Ellis's series is coming to a conclusion. It's going to be 12 issues in total, so 1 more to go. I've got restocks of Kanto and the Clockwork Fairies coming in. You're probably sick listening to me talking about Kanto, but it actually sort of went past the benchmark this week. Kanto is now our second biggest indie pull. People are just falling in love with that story more and more. So we've got more of the second prints coming next week. We did get some in this week and they sold out day one, so keep an eye out for that. We've got Catwoman number 25. That's going to be a Joker War tie-in as well. What else have we got? We've got Detective Comics 1027. This is going to be a massive 144 pager. It's going to be a £9 price point on that one. But for the sheer wealth of content there, you're essentially getting the guts of a graphic novel. This is to celebrate 1,000 issues of Batman. Loads of different covers for that one as well, so keep an eye. We are getting them all in. There are limited quantities of a lot of them, but keep an eye. And if one, you know, if you do see a cover in advance that appeals to you, get in touch and we'll certainly see if we can sort you with that. What else have we got? We've got Devil's Highway number 3, that AWA title I'm really enjoying, a little more of that. We've got Justice League 53, so that's going to be a 4 or 5 part tie-in to Metal as well. So I think that'll be popular this week as well. We got the always excellent Once and Future number 11 coming as well. The great Kieran Gillen, Dan Mora title. 7 Secrets number 2. You know, this week we got in 7 Secrets number 1 third printing. Now for an indie title to go through 3 printings that quickly is really impressive. But it's also a testament to the quality of the title. Love 7 Secrets. We've still got some of those other printings in store. So if you are having a quieter week this week, for example, with no Marvel titles and you fancy giving something a little bit of a try, highly recommend 7 Secrets, Tom Taylor's indie creation. Really, really good. The next one up is actually kind of a funny one. So we've been talking a little bit about Stillwater, which is a brand new Chip Zdarsky penned issue. It's a horror series for Image Comics. And I put up a tweet last night just for a laugh saying, you know, Zdarsky really does have a lot of sway in the industry because he's managed to make all of the UK not get any Marvel titles the week that Stillwater comes out, you know, completely paving the way for his title. And Chip's a great guy, you know, obviously we've interviewed him, we've chatted with him a few times, and he just retweeted, just going, yeah, I think Marvel are, excuse my French, fucking chickens. And then he sort of wrote after about 3 or 4 months later, only joking, Marvel. But yeah, that's another example of one that I would say that if you are looking for something to give it a bit of a try to next week because of the lack of Marvel titles, That's going to be up there. I'm really, really looking forward to that. And then another big indie one to finish on is actually a series called You Look Like Death, which is Tales of the Umbrella Academy. So obviously a very popular series with us in terms of the comics due to the, you know, the Netflix show and the popularity of that and so forth. So yeah, so there's still good stuff coming next week. It's just volume wise, it's not quite at the same level that it would normally be. It's very interesting doing the pull list today that, you know, you could just skip past the Marvel section and everybody's pull list, which was kind of interesting. So yeah, so that's pretty much all the housekeeping in the store. So I'll just move on to the bits and pieces sort of that caught my eye over this past week. There was lots and lots of great comic announcements this week. I was happy to see. Before I jump into this, I should say that I'm recording this on the Saturday. This is pre-DC Fandom. So the second part of that event will have, by the time this is up, will have been and gone. I'm sure you can find all the content on YouTube and at dcfandom.com. And I'm sure I'll do a separate show just going over DC Fandom and all the big announcements from that. But this was not a week shy of new announcements, I have to say. So DC released their 2020 December solicitations, and whoa, they did not hold back. There's a regular in the store, Stephen, and he was saying how, you know, RIP Wallet DC December. The sheer volume of stuff is incredible, I have to say. First out of the bag, and I'm so delighted to see this get a release date at last. Anyone who's been coming to us for a while will know that we held an event last year in the store where we had Clayman come over. He came over from the States, did a signing, did a 1 hour Q&A session with us. Really, really class event. So it was, I've been speaking to him recently again, and I kind of wondered if it was because this was maybe about to be properly announced. But he talked that day a lot about a title called Batman Catwoman. And this was going to be a title that was going to be the follow-up to Tom King's Batman run. So Tom King's writing this, Clayman's doing the art. And the original plan was going to be that Clay was maybe going to draw 8 of the 12 issues, and then the other 4 would be fill-in artists. But he told us a story that day about how when he read the scripts, he thought, you know, this could be really special. This could be our Dark Knight Returns. He wanted to draw it all. So they went to DC and asked if they could maybe put a bit of a delay on the title and let Clay draw all of it. Now, obviously, we've had the situation with, you know, coronavirus, people being housebound. I'm sure Clay's got massively ahead on it. But finally, we got a release date. Boom. Batman Catwoman, written by Tom King, art and cover by Clayman, on sale 1st of December. We already have pre-orders for this already through the roof. I mean, people have had this pre-ordered ever since that Clay event, and that was last October. So I'll be sharing more and more of the preview stuff for that over the next week or two. I mean, these are announcements. They haven't released the previews book like properly yet. And normally I'm very much a guy who'll wait for the previews book to look through all this stuff. But there was just so much good stuff I thought it was worth throwing out to you guys. But yeah, Batman Catwoman, I can't wait. They're bringing into the comics Phantasm, which is from the Batman animated series, and it's the first time they're bringing Phantasm into comics, into canon, you know. So again, a few more bits and pieces, but I will go into this in more detail when we do our previews podcast and the books come in. But you've got Batman Black and White coming back, which has always been a really cool Batman anthology series. They started to release stuff for their big event in December, which is called Endless Winter. I think this might be, I mean, I'm really liking the look of this, and I like the talent involved, especially with Mikel Janin getting involved, and Howard Porter on art and so forth, and then you've got Ron Mars and Andy Lanning writing. I do wonder if this will be the first time I see a flip in events in store, because normally DC, you know, you look at Metal, for example, Metal has 40 plus people with it in their pull list. Empire had maybe 10 or 11, and I wonder if December will be flipped for the first time ever, where it'll be 40, 50, 60 people on King and Black, and maybe 10 to 15 on Endless Winter. But we'll see. I don't know an awful lot about it just yet. I'm sure we'll learn more as the previews books come out. But I do know it's going to tie into the likes of Flash and Superman and Justice League, and curiously enough, Black Adam as well. So that'll be one to keep an eye out for. They announced more of the Tales from the Dark multiverse stuff, which is really, really great to see, because we already had Hush and Flashpoint announced. So yeah, on the Tales from the Dark multiverse stuff, you've got Crisis on Infinite Earths, you've got, interestingly, Dark Knight's Metal, which is quite an interesting one, and then Wonder Woman War of the Gods. And then in addition to that, it's just loads of great looking DC stuff, I have to say, you know. There's a few more metal tie-ins announced. You've got, pardon me, Dark Knight's Death Metal, The Last Stories of the DC Universe. You've got The Secret Origin. When it comes to these Death Metal's tie-ins as well, keep an eye out. I know Gary Frank is doing a connecting cover, essentially. So each issue is going to have a variant cover by him, and then it's going to all fit together as one picture. It looks class, so it does. So yeah, I mean, that's just very brief. There's much more stuff on here in terms of the DC solicitations, and you know, you can certainly look them up if you want to. Pardon me, I will hold off for a little while until the full book arrives. But there was a bit of sad news with regards to this, in that Batman Beyond is going to be cancelled with issue 50. I know it's a bit of a cult favourite with a lot of guys in the store, so it's a shame to see that going. On the plus side, it might allow me time to actually catch up on it. So yeah, shame to see it cancelled, but at the same time, it'll give me a chance to just grab all the graphic novels, add them to the bookcase, but also read them. Continuing on with the DC news, there was the announcement, unfortunately, that Wonder Woman 1984 has been delayed again. Obviously, with the coronavirus situation, cinemas are not back to full capacity. The numbers for Tenet are pretty good, but at the same time, it's nowhere near what they would normally expect, understandably. So originally it was going to be October 2nd. It's now been moved back to Christmas Day. I don't know why they don't just postpone these things indefinitely until they have a date they can stick to, because I don't know if we as a society thought coronavirus was going to last as long as it has already, and it might still go on for another week, it might go on for another year, we just don't know. So I think they should just really cancel all of these movies if they want to keep to that cinematic experience, and then as soon as they are in a situation where, you know, they can release them worldwide, you know, just announce it then, because otherwise you're just pushing it back, and people are getting frustrated and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that was sort of the DC side of things. You know, I was talking there about December events, and for Marvel it's this King in Black event. So this is going to be massive. You know, pre-orders for this are huge already. Anything Donny Cates does, you know, it's, you know, hype level is very real on it. And Marvel have unveiled a slew of advanced December solicitations that are tying into it. So what it seems to be is, let's have a look. So you've got a lot of one-shots by the look of it. It looks to be following the metal sort of template a little bit, because you have a lot of one-shots and brand new titles being created for this, but also the odd one here and there that is going through the main titles. So with metal, for example, you had all those one-shots, but then you have that Justice League one coming up. So what they've solicited here, you've got Black Cat #1, King in Black. You've got King in Black Immortal Hulk #1. King in Black Doctor Doom Iron Man #1. As well as Namor 1 and 2. And also you've got Spider-Woman #7. So that's what I mean by a title that's actually being utilised as the main, you know, it's going through the main run, but they're just tying it in at that time. So yeah, this is going to be massive. I really can't overestimate how big this is going to be. This has the potential to rival even metal in my eyes in terms of pre-orders in the store and excitement and what people are looking forward to. So yeah, the hype levels are absolutely through the roof for this, and you know, Donny Cates, I think, has earned our trust at this point. Absolute Carnage was great, I thought. So we will see. On the Marvel / Star Warsy type news, I did see that Ewan McGregor was interviewed during the week, and he confirmed that the event series centered on Obi-Wan. They've always said they wanted to do an event TV series for the character. It's set to begin shooting in spring of next year. As far as they've said, it's going to be a standalone season, so I don't think this is going to be like a Mandalorian does well, they'll do a second one. I think this is just going to be a one-off event series, but I will certainly look forward to that. And the more indie side of things, certainly with regards to TV, there was a story that really interested me this week. It actually quite annoyed me, to be honest. So The Boys Season 2 has started to drop on Amazon Prime. What they did this time, so with the first season, they sent the entire season out in one go. Obviously, they didn't know what the demand for it was going to be. So Season 2 dropped with 3 episodes, and then they're going to be doing weekly episodes after that. Now this, I understand in one sense being frustrated because, you know, you want it all at once, and that's kind of the way the world has gone. We're very much in a binge culture right now. We'd rather, you know, watch through them all. But to be so annoyed by this release schedule, there were people who were actually review bombing sites with negative reviews for the show just because they couldn't have it all at once. Seems like the biggest crybaby thing I've ever seen. You know, comments including, "This is 2020, we don't want staggered releases of episodes." Get over yourself. It's worth waiting for good content, and there's nothing wrong with waiting week to week for TV shows. You know, the world wasn't always like this. This is my old man rant, by the way. The world wasn't always like this. You know, you had weekly content, you have cliffhangers, you get the chance to chat about it with your friends. You know, not everything has to be binged in one long go now, so I have no problem with this being released as it is. But for people to actually review bomb sites and throw negativity out there, nothing to do with the show itself, but to do with the people releasing it and their release scheduling, is quite frankly pathetic, and people really need to get over themselves. Enjoy the show, embrace the show. This is why we can't have nice things, because if this gets review bombed and then people decide to stop watching or boycott or whatever, all those same people who are complaining that they don't get it all at once are not going to get any at all. So just get over yourselves, please. There you go, an Alan mantra to live by. Get over yourselves. I personally haven't started watching it yet. Combination of not feeling well, and also there's a few things Vicky and I are finishing off before we jump onto it. So, but really looking forward to it. I heard nothing but great things from the people who actually watch it. So that's that. There was the rather big bombshell this week that the main series of The Walking Dead TV show from AMC is finishing with a larger sized season 11. So it's going to be a 24 episode season, with the first 12 airing in 2021 and the second 12 in 2022. So there's still a way to go yet. I mean, as much as this is a bombshell announcement. But the thing about it is that they are going to do 2 new spin-offs as well. I have mixed feelings on this. I mean, Walking Dead, I'm a little behind in the TV show because for me, the TV show has become a bit of a grind. I think a lot of the best characters aren't in it anymore. I think that they've changed an awful lot from the comic. And in early seasons, that was its strength because you didn't really know what was, you know, going to happen. But I just think they've changed a lot of things for the negative, and it's just such an endlessly hopeless show. It's so dark, and it is a world without hope. I know that's part of the storyline, and that's fine. But with the comics, I never got that. With the comics, I always felt like, you know, there's brighter days ahead, and, you know, they can turn the world back around, so to speak. And yeah, I just haven't really went back to The Walking Dead. I think we were halfway through the latest season, and then we just sort of stepped away. I mean, to give you an idea, in the early seasons of Walking Dead, it used to be that I would just avoid the internet for a day, watch the show so I didn't get any spoilers. Whereas now, I couldn't really care if someone spoiled something for me, I'd just get over it. And now the fact that they want to do all these spin-offs, it's just become more of a money machine than anything to do with storytelling, which I think is a bit of a shame because The Walking Dead is one of the best comic stories out there. So it is a shame. But yeah, I mean, the main series coming to an end, maybe because they know that the writing will get a little better. I always thought it was really cool that they did that with Lost. I know Lost can be a bit of a divisive show. I personally think it's a masterpiece. But they essentially announced, right, we're doing 40 more episodes and that's it. So it took away that idea of having to grind out content for years on end because it was doing well, because you give yourself a fixed endpoint. So yeah, we will see. So yeah, the main series of Walking Dead, but you know, The Walking Dead's not going anywhere just yet. On a side note, the comic series, if you have never read it, just in case you don't know, they are releasing all of the single issues all again, but this time coloured, and it kicks off in October. You know, the pre-orders are still open for that, so if you really do want to read it, it is a great way to do it. And we'll just finish off then with, they finally released the trailer this week for Dune. This is obviously the adaptation of the classic Frank Herbert novel. It's Denis Villeneuve who is directing. He of Prisoners, he of Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, those types of things. It's got a hell of a cast, I have to say. You've got Timothée Chalamet, you've got Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, etc., etc. Big, big cast. I have to say the first trailer was pretty damn great. It looks big, it looks epic. I am a fan of the David Lynch version. A lot of people are not. I think it gets a bit of a you know, an unfair reputation. But I actually quite enjoy it. But this does look another level big. Obviously, it was made back in the sort of the 80s, whereas this is, you know, the advancements in computer graphics and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to it, I have to say. It's, again, it's currently set up for Christmas of this year, but whether it actually stays to that, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly with Wonder Woman being moved already to Christmas, I don't think Warner Brothers, who are also making this as well as Wonder Woman, would want their two big prestige titles to clash. So I think this will get moved to next year, but nothing official just yet, but keep an eye out. So yeah, that is going to do it for us this week. I have been told I had to throw out a little shout to Kieran McHenry, who was in store today. I understand you were in buying a couple of Justice League issues. Flying the flag for DC. Love your work. Anyway, I will look forward to seeing you guys all in store next week. As I say, I will be back in a lot more next week. I will have the CGC stuff out. With a couple of other exciting bits and pieces coming next week as well. So keep an eye on all the social medias as well for that. But in the meantime, anything you need, website's there. Get in touch through Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. We're always available. And just make sure that you guys are staying safe out there. All right, so I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take it easy.